Essentially we arrived with no place to stay. They basically said, sorry, we can't accept your son. Is it, where is it getting up to? Is it getting below the...
At the moment, it's right on your knee.
I don't want to look like an arrogant do you know what I mean? Just feel comfortable like this for some reason. I'm not a cocky I promise. A little bit about me is that I was born in Egypt. My family had a very strong Egyptian heritage. Many generations back, what they call Coptic Orthodox Christians, so a very old Orthodox faith. Egypt had become a very kind of oppressive place. There was a lot of religious friction and stigma. Christians are the minority there. There's a very strong Islamic presence in Egypt. Basically, my parents had decided that there wasn't a great future in Egypt anymore, and they wanted us, their kids, to have a bright future. And so they made the tough decision basically to leave their life and everything they knew there and come to Australia for a better life. There was a skill shortage in Australia right off the back of a pretty big recession. They were trying to bring in skilled migrants into the country. So they landed here. I was 4, my brother was 6, with their suitcases, and basically the money they had was enough to buy the flights. And my dad tells the story that the money he had was just money that his father had given him to help with the journey and arriving here. And essentially we arrived with no place to stay. They found us a kind of temporary Airbnb. We stayed there for I think a couple of months before we found a permanent place to stay. But very quickly my parents were able to find work, and they had to work very hard, 6-7 days a week. Unlike many Anglo families that had been born and bred here in Australia, we as young kids had to, find ways to adapt, learn the language, all these sort of things. And, for me it was very challenging. I found language barriers were hard, cultural barriers were hard. Not to victimise myself, but I think the racism was very prevalent. We went to a very white Anglo school, and probably the first feeling of chip on the shoulder of, they're being treated differently, and almost being told that there was something wrong with us, or that we wouldn't really amount to the same things. I recall it was year 4, there was a teacher who, probably the first woman that had actually shown some level of care or investment in me, put in quite a bit of effort. Her name was Mrs. Potter. I was a very sort of distracted kid, didn't really pay much attention at school. I always believed that I had a level of intellect, but I just definitely didn't explore or reach that potential, especially, during school. Went to high school. I was in this high school for 3 years. And then our family built a new home, and we moved to a new location, new area. And that was quite far from where my high school was. My brother had graduated school at this point. I remember interviewing for the local co-ed Catholic school, looked at my grades, and they basically said, sorry, we can't accept your son. That was probably the next big chip on my shoulder of feeling like, this school had made some sort of judgment on me that I wasn't worthy. And then there was a private boys' school in the area, and they accepted and offered a position to me. Being in a single gender school gave me a little bit more laser focus. I reckon I was very distracted by girls and attention from girls. That focus helped me a lot. I grew a lot faster than a lot of guys, had facial hair, body hair. That testosterone was, very strong at that age. And I put that attention to sport, and I started to realise that with effort and consistency, I started to get some results. And Year 11, get this opportunity to be invited to a leadership retreat to apply to be one of the prefects of the school. And first time ever I thought that I could be a leader. And those 3 days changed my life. They really taught me that I was able and capable to be a leader, and that my peers viewed me as a leader. Comes the voting, and the teachers make a decision that I would be a vice captain in my house rather than the captain. Another little chip on my shoulder. Again, just drove me to work harder, put more effort in, more consistency, and then did a lot better than most people would have thought I would have done in finishing high school. And it was sort of that dogged persistence of, wanting to amount to something, wanting to achieve something. And I think in my belly, I felt like I had a really big purpose in life, but I had no idea what it was. I just tasted a bit of leadership, had some people show belief in me, plus the chip on my shoulder was enough to sort of drive me to want to succeed. There's a whole nother part to this story, but